Before I get into this particular commentary, there are some things about these two videos that I'd like to note. For starters, one of these videos I do know is about a year old at the time of me writing this script, and the subject of today's video has made a follow-up video apologizing for how bad his behavior was in that specific video, but given the fact that the target made a video on the sequel about a year later, and it ended up having the exact same problems as his original review, as well as the fact that he made yet another follow-up video about how toxic the Spider-Verse fandom is, both of these videos are fair game, and I will be touching upon what the subject has said about the Spider-Verse fandom later on in this commentary. Meet today's subject, Trolls World Tour Fan 2001, previously known as InsideOutfan 2001, a reviewer that is on the smaller side of the reviewing community, alongside Harry Thomas Pictures, The Dragon Critic, Lambo Rock Strikes Back, etc. Long story short, InsideOutfan 2001 used to be friends with this group of people before all of a sudden he began disrespecting people's opinions on movies he likes, including his real-life family. This all came to a head in November 2018, when InsideOutfan disrespected Harry Thomas's opinion on Wreck-It Ralph. A year later, people started cutting contact with him, and he started growing himself an infamous reputation, even outside of the community he was in. Which is why there are so many videos about him now. All of the context that I bring up is important for later, given that InsideOutfan really didn't learn from all of these experiences that he went through, getting up to the point where the problems only grew worse. And they all reached a head in October 2021, when InsideOutfan reviewed No Time to Die, being happy that James Bond died before saying, "Yes! Finally! Daniel Craig is done!" Which is when his reputation grew worse. And well, given that I have recently watched Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, and really thinking about the problems that I have with these two reviews, I might as well use the knowledge that I have about Spider-Verse to point out the problems with these two videos. But before I get into this commentary, my problem with these two videos is not the fact that he dislikes the Spider-Verse movies, contrary to what some people might think. And this video is not being made for the purpose of trying to tell him to stop making videos and delete his channel, like what Ross O'Hare did in his 4 videos he did about him. This video is being made to tell him where he messed up, and if he doesn't listen to this video, there's not much I could really do about that. I mean, it is his channel after all, and it's not like he's actively going around and hurting other people, even if what he said about real-life actors is problematic. He's just making videos as a hobby, and they are videos that you could just simply not watch. But with that being said, yeah, these two reviews are not good. And similarly to my commentary I did on Bumps Off Kill, since this is a commentary on 2 reviews on superhero-related films, and since these are 2 movies that do mix media combinations between 2 animation styles, I'm going to be using Mitsuki from Kappa Mikey as my avatar. With all that said, on to the first video.
Sensitivity.
Just the jokes. They suck. I just hate the jokes in this movie. They are abominably terrible. I despise them.
Would you mind telling me why you find the jokes in this movie terrible? No? Okay then. Spoilers for the rest of the review, by the way. Most of the points that InsideOutfan makes about this movie, he barely ever explains as to why he really dislikes anything in this movie. Not even giving out one example as to what jokes he doesn't like in the movie. And I get it, humor is subjective and all, what one finds funny, another person doesn't, but this is something to keep in mind going forward. All of InsideOutfan's points against the movie have very little substance and doesn't go further into detail on why he dislikes said product in particular, that you'll be all like how Nostalgia Critic was in his Quest for Camelot review by the end of it.
Oh look, there's a cool train in the background. Oh wait, back on track, yeah.
And you decided not to cut this part of the video out. Why exactly? It's not like InsideOutfan doesn't have the ability to cut this part out, because he shows a picture of the movie that he probably inserted via using a video editor, and YouTube editor exists. So this part just feels unnecessary.
Sensitivity.
And also, the animation is gross. I just despise the animation. I know people... I hear articles saying that this movie forced animation to evolve. More like evolve into some sort of nightmare fuel now. And that's, And that sucks at all. And you know what sucks, guys? Even other animated studios are trying to take Spider-Verse inspiration. Like, every anime studio is trying to be like Spider-Verse. Like, for example, The Bad Guys this year, which I'm sorry. I wasn't a fan of that movie. I'm sorry, guys. And yeah, I just don't like this sort of comic book-like feel. It just feels unrealistic. It's just, it just looks, ugh. They literally try to put so much detail that it just becomes too uncanny and just too creepy to look at.
So your issue with the animation is that it doesn't look realistic. You do realize that it's not trying to be realistic, right? I get it. It's a style. Isn't really a good counter argument because it all comes down to personal preference, but you literally just said that it's trying to go for a comic book-like feel. So wouldn't a realistic or plain CGI look defeat the purpose of what the movie is trying to do? And there's a reason why this movie is trying to go for this look, given that all the characters are trying to distinguish themselves from one another. Spider-Ham is cartoony, Penny Parker is anime-like, and Spider-Man Noir is black and white. And the sequel takes this approach even further, where all the different dimensions in Spider-Man are in different styles, and it gives off the illusion that all of them are set in their own worlds. And also, you do realize that not all the animation is like this, right? Given that both Spider-Ham and Penny Parker look 2D, and they go for completely different styles, even if they don't appear for a lot of the movie. But that's really besides the point. And also, doesn't it being overly detailed shoot yourself in the foot about you not liking how unrealistic this is? Or is it just me?
You want an example of an anime movie that does it better, guys? And honestly, DreamWorks knows how to balance out better with different styles of animation. And even the Wreck-It Ralph films know have a better style of animation, guys, because at least it feels balanced. At least it feels organic.
You do realize that most of the animation used in both the Trolls and Wreck-It Ralph films stay the same style throughout those movies, right? So this isn't a very good comparison. The Trolls films are the ones that you might have a point about, because those films go for a yarn-like style, similar to Little Big Planet, Kirby's Epic Yarn, and Yoshi's Woolly World, but this still isn't a good comparison because that's the primary style that they go for in that film, while Into the Spider-Verse has more than one. And you have even less of a point about the Wreck-It Ralph films, because even though the styles of the Disney princesses are changed from 2D to 3D, both of them use the exact same animation principles that Disney has been using in their 3D animated films since Tangled, with the only difference being the stutter on them since they're video game characters. So this is just an apples to oranges comparison.
Sensitivity.
The characters, I don't care for Miles. I didn't even feel a bond with Peter Parker. They have zero chemistry. Yep. No chemistry at all.
And once again, he doesn't even elaborate. This time he doesn't explain as to why Miles and Peter don't have chemistry and leaves it right there. Lovely.
And also, I freaking despise Haley Steinfeld's Spider-Gwen. Oh my gosh, her design's horrible. And just, even, I hate her hairstyle. I'm sorry. And, you may think, oh, come on, you gotta like your hairstyle. It's pretty awesome and bad. Guess what? Guess what? I don't get to like my haircut. How do I know? Because she literally says it in the movie.
Are you serious right now? You seriously hate Gwen Stacy's character because of her hair. I mean, he goes a little bit more into why he doesn't like Gwen in the next video I'll cover, but in this video, he literally does the exact same thing that Phantom Strider did when he talked about Austin and Ally, talking about the hair of a character rather than the character themselves. But this is even worse because that's all that InsideOutfan2001 does when talking about her in this video. And it's not like InsideOutfan critiques Gwen any better in the next video. And we'll get there when we get there.
And also Kingpin, oh my gosh. I'm gonna say it. I am gonna say it. He's the worst comic book villain ever. And probably one of the worst movie villains I've ever seen. I mean, his design is absolutely horrible. I mean, seriously. He looks like the hash-slinging slasher ripoff from SpongeBob. That's more like the Kingpin than that Kingpin.
What? You are aware that Kingpin has existed long before SpongeBob was even created, right? Do you not know what the term ripoff even means? To be a ripoff, you needed to exist before that other thing to be able to be classified as a ripoff. Apparently, from what I was told by Badmaster7, InsideOutfan2001 might have meant to say that his design was a ripoff of the hash-slinging slasher, but that still doesn't work because looking at Kingpin's other designs, he looks no different in Into the Spiderverse than in other iterations. And also, this still shows a lack of research on your part and a misunderstanding towards what the term ripoff even means.
And, yeah, I just, and oh my gosh, I'm sick of the praise of this film gets right now. Many people just hate on Ralph Breaks the Internet and call that a bad film and a disgraceful film and all that. And to those people who hate Ralph Breaks the Internet and Trolls World Tour, here's something I'm gonna give ya.
He proceeds to give 2 middle fingers. Yeah, this is the biggest problem that I have with this review. The entire reason as to why InsideOutFan2001 made this video, as he admitted himself, was not because he had any legitimate reasons as to why he dislikes this movie, or because there was any actual substance to bring up. It's because of the praise that the movie gets. Which is what got this video a tremendous amount of backlash in the first place, which is what led him to making his follow-up video, which is what I'll be discussing about during my final thoughts. But we're not quite done yet, because we have yet another video to tackle, which is his Across the Spiderverse review. Now, the reason I decided to cover the previous video, despite him apologizing for his behavior, is because of the fact that the next video is not too much different from his Into the Spiderverse review. If anything, this review is honestly worse, because while the previous video had very little substance to go through, as he said himself with the movie, but this video is chocked full of problems, so you might want to buckle in because there are several things to go over in this video. Also, be warned that there will be major spoilers for the film, so if you haven't seen it, be sure to either go or stay. But I'll be sure to warn you in advance when the really big ones do show up.
Sensitivity.
The story is basically just about Miles and Gwen, who basically goes to this other dimension with other spider people and all that, and yada yada, and dumb twists and all that, and there's just no plot. No f***ing plot at all.
While it is true that the movie's plot is incredibly simple, given that all the movie really does is that it shows them going into the Spider-Man dimension, Miles does something to antagonize them before running away, then sets something up for the next movie. What you described is a plot. A simple plot, sure, but it is a plot, because it tells things. So you pretty much contradicted yourself right there. Not to mention, this is the first part of the full story, because they weren't able to fit everything they wanted into a 2-hour runtime. A movie that doesn't have a plot would be something like Lewis and the Aliens, which I do know that you watched, given that you put it at number 2 on your worst 2018 films list. As for most of the runtime, barely anything happens throughout that movie, before it turns into what I'd like to nickname Wild Goose Chase the movie. But that's just me.
To be honest, guys, this was my least anticipated movie of all time. I was just not looking forward to it, and I just couldn't look forward to it, guys. Considering that the Spider-Verse fandom is like the most toxic fandom ever, guys. I thought the first Spider-Verse movie was a shitty movie indeed, but trust me, you have not seen anything yet. Because I f***ing hated this piece of burning passion.
Ignoring your point about the Spider-Verse fandom, which I'll touch upon in a bit, we could kind of gather that you weren't looking forward to the movie, given that you just said that you didn't like the first movie, and you said that the movie was gonna be bad based on the trailer in another video of yours.
As I speak, ladies and gentlemen, Across the Spider-Verse currently holds a 4.7 on Letterboxd. What the actual That's the highest rating for any movie on that site. That is bullshit. Utter bullshit.
To be honest with you right now, Letterboxd is not really a reliable source of information anyway, given the fact that if you've watched Scuffrillus's review on Shrek Forever After, he said that the movie has a lower score on Letterboxd than the infamous Shrek the Third. And that's because, like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, they count the overall percentage based on how many people give a specific score to with that particular show or movie. After all, Rotten Tomatoes is the exact same website that let the abomination known as Cuties get a fresh score on there.
Sensitivity.
The animation. Holy f***ing shit balls. The animation is even worse than the animation in Food Fight and Norm in the North.
So you're basically saying that this movie, which combines so many animation styles and has a lot of detail put into it, has worse animation than a movie that has hideous looking designs and was originally going to be a straight-to-DVD movie, and a movie which is lifeless, has bad motion capture and is unnatural, and has horrifying looking human designs. Well, maybe he's going to explain himself? Does he actually do this? I really hope he does.
I don't get how the people are praising the animation in this film. It's so ugly. It's hideous. It's horrible. It's so cheap and lazy. And these animators, they deserve to go to jail for making this total cancer of animation. Yeah, the animation was just so bad to the point that I just wanted to vomit.
Oh, so he doesn't explain as to why the animation is worse than Norm of the North and Food Fight. Well, that's one thing on my Christmas wish list that is not being fulfilled anytime soon. But back on point, ignoring your whole "the animators deserve to go to jail for making this cancer of animation" comment, which is going to come back to bite you in the butt later, there's another major thing about this section that bothers me. Not so much your point about the animation being hideous and all of that, but instead, it's your point about the animation being cheap and lazy. Firstly, the animation in this movie is not quote-unquote cheap. Given the fact that this movie's budget is $100 million, and given how many animation styles that this movie put together, it's safe to assume that the animation is pretty high budgeted, especially compared to the first movie. Given that this movie has plenty of more spider people, not to mention, they also had to integrate live action and make it look convincing. And the second thing, and the thing that bothers me more, the animation in this movie is lazy. Okay, absolutely not. Allow me to go on a bit of a tangent real quick. This is starting to become a pet peeve of mine when it comes to animation reviewers, even some that I actually like. They always seem to conflate something being either ugly or off-model with being lazy. When no, that's not how the term lazy even works. In order for something to be lazy, it either has to have the bare minimum put into it, or the person has to have not put any effort into it. And that's just not how it works with something being off-model or ugly. If something is off-model, that means that it's inconsistent, not lazy. Looking at you, Lily Orchard. And in this case, something being ugly means that it's not appealing to you. And saying that this movie's animation is lazy, combined with you saying that they deserve to go to jail for making this animation, does a great disservice to those who put a lot of work into this movie. 12-Ounce Mouse has lazy animation, even though what's done in that show is on purpose. Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse had a lot of work put into it. One sequence of this film alone took 4 years to make, and over 1,000 animators worked on the movie and put their all into it. Though those animators do have way too much patience, given that Phil Lord and Chris Miller overworked them to the point of exhaustion, though that's completely unrelated to the topic. But yeah, given all the things that the animators had to go through and how detailed that everything is, that doesn't come across as this movie having cheap and lazy animation whatsoever.
This is literally the shittiest sequel you could dish up, guys. It expands its world in such a dull way, and it keeps reminding you of events or even have similar imagery from the first movie. Like, they'll quote the first movie and also have a certain imagery that reminds you of the first movie. In a way, this is honestly a Frozen 2-like sequel, guys. What do I mean by that? Well, it's a kind of sequel that basically just references the first film without being very standalone.
No, it doesn't. If anything, this film references the first movie very little, to the point where it's a zone out and you'll miss it kind of deal. Heck, two of the only spider people that really return in this movie in a major way are Gwen Stacy and Peter B. Parker, and that's it. As the other characters, especially Penny Parker, only appear for a few seconds and that's it. And being someone who did watch Frozen 2, no, it really doesn't. That only happened in one sequence and that's it, and it's been quite a while since I watched that. I'm pretty sure that Inside Out Fan is referencing the part of the film where Olaf recaps the first movie, but that's the only major time where they reference the first movie. And really, why should it matter if this movie is standalone or not? Isn't the point of a sequel to connect it in some way with the original film? This is such a nothing point, to the point where it could apply to literally every single sequel out there.
It's literally a lack of originality and a lack of content.
Well, yeah, that's because this is only part one of the full story that it's trying to tell, as the end credits literally tells the audience that Miles Morales will return in Spider-Man Beyond the Spiderverse, given that this movie is literally 2 hours long. Though, considering the fact that you said that you walked out as soon as the end credits came around, that's unsurprising.
Sensitivity.
Yes, humor is subjective, but categorizing this as a subjective form of humor is like categorizing those dumb parody movies like they were a subjective humor, guys.
Says that he knows that humor is subjective, before proceeding to argue with those that would say that humor is subjective. Allow him to continue, because I have more to say about this.
I mean, this is literally the same style of comedy that you would find in one of those Jason Freebird movies. The guy who directed Date Movie, Epic Movie, and Disaster Movie. This is literally the same style of humor.
How exactly? Because whenever someone would bring up these movies, it would usually be for a reason, most notably, doing nothing but making pop culture references, and you have failed to demonstrate that so far. If simply just putting in a certain Easter egg for the viewers to notice qualifies as being cringy and like those parody movies to you, then I'm not looking forward to seeing what you think of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, given that this kind of thing is everywhere in that movie.
Sensitivity.
And all these other comic characters, oh boy. If you thought they f***ed up Deadpool and X-Men Origins so badly, if you thought they f***ed up the 3 villains in Amazing Spider-Man 2 so badly, there are so many characters, comic book characters, that are so completely f***ed up. Like, for example, the Vulture in this movie. Yeah, the Vulture is actually in this movie. Oh my goodness, he looks nothing like he does in the comics, guys.
Well, yeah, he's not supposed to look like what he did in the comics, because if you paid attention to the movie, which I highly doubt you did, the film explicitly explains that this version of Vulture came from a dimension that was entirely made of parchment paper.
Sensitivity.
Gwen Stacy, oh my goodness, she freaking sucks. And I know, I don't really bring up this criticism to describe like a female character, like this term that a lot of movie critics go to, like a negative criticism to go and describe an overempowered woman and all that. But honestly, I have to bring it up. Gwen Stacy in this movie is freaking woke. Yep. I can't believe I'm saying it. She is a woke character. I mean, say what you will about Captain Marvel. Say what you will about Rey from Star Wars. But at least those characters, they had arcs. They had a personality. They had character. But Gwen Stacy, she literally has the personality of toilet paper. Yep, that's her personality. Just frickin' toilet paper that you shove up your ass.
Well, I'll give him this. This time he at least said more than just, I hate how her hair looks. But that's still not saying much. For one thing, Gwen Stacy is absolutely not woke in this movie. Did you not pay attention to the movie or what? The film outright shows her struggles at the beginning of the movie and how she accidentally gets her friend killed. And how she unintentionally ruins her reputation as Spider-Gwen, and how she's struggling to keep her secret from her dad now that she unintentionally gets her friend killed. Also, yes, Gwen Stacy does have an arc in this movie, and that is regarding her trying to earn her father's trust trust back now that he knows that she's Spider-Gwen. Also, considering the fact that Ray and Captain Marvel are considered as Mary Sues by the rest of the general public, this is especially true for Ray, it's safe to say that no, they don't have any personalities, nor do they have any arcs.
Also, the opening scene, oh my goodness. I never cringed so hard in my life when I heard that drum beat and all that. That was Gwen Stacy basically beating up drums and all that. In my screening, I was like, stop drumming! Stop drumming, you punk! Just please stop drumming so that this bane of my existence could be over with.
Okay, now you're just cherry picking at things to complain about. You seriously cringed while in the theater because Gwen Stacy was playing the drums. Seriously?
Mayday Parker was so annoying, guys. I guarantee you, he's one day gonna be the next Ice Age baby. I guarantee you. I mean, oh my goodness, I was so annoyed by this baby that I just wanted to chuck him off a cliff for all I care.
Small production nitpick real quick, I think you should look into getting a video downloader instead of lazily putting your video camera in front of a computer screen. Also, the Ice Age baby controversy was incredibly stupid because they were going after a harmless baby that didn't even do anything throughout the movie. You also don't explain how this baby is annoying in the slightest, and you're really making her a much bigger deal than she actually is, given that she doesn't so much as scream or cry throughout the movie. And last but certainly not least, that is literally child abuse.
And also, remember that post-credit scene in the first movie with the Spider-Man the 60s Spider-Man and the Spider-Man 2099 Spider-Man? You did that pointing thing. Remember that cringy joke? It's brought back in this movie, and this time it's literally a dumb plot point.
No, it really wasn't. It was just a simple joke, and that's it. The joke that was done here was about how Spider-Man 2099 said to catch Spider-Man before they started pointing at each other. It only happens for a few seconds, and no, it wasn't brought back for a dumb plot point. It was just for one joke, and that's literally it.
Honestly, like, all the spider people got distracted and all that, and everybody was, pointing out all at the same time, and, I was literally screaming in the auditorium where I was like, ah!
How on earth did you not get kicked out after you did that?
Yeah, wasn't that excruciating? And also, at the very end of this film, there is a cliffhanger, and I'm sorry to spoil this, and honestly, I don't care to spoil this, because trust me, this is my least favorite movie of all time, so I have every right to spoil this shit.
No, absolutely not. Cause there are people in my audience that probably didn't even see this movie yet, and I'm not gonna let you ruin it for them. But don't worry, this is your warning right now. I put time codes in the description so you guys could skip over the spoiler section, or you could simply just mute this part of the video until I start interjecting again. You good? Alright, let's continue.
It turns out there's another dimension, and guess what? Uncle Aaron is alive! No big shock, right? And also, he's actually not the real Plower in this universe. The real Plower is, guess what? Another Miles! Ha ha ha! Kill movie!
Well, thanks a lot, InsideOutFan2001. Now that part of the movie doesn't surprise me anymore. Yeah, you pretty much ruined any chance of me getting surprised, given that I watched this review before watching the movie. I hope you're proud of yourself. At least have the decency to put up a spoiler warning for your audience in advance by putting up time codes. Is it really that much to ask?
That's right. It turns out there's another Miles in another alternate universe who's technically evil, of course. And I was like, oh my goodness, they're going with this cliche. They're going with this cliche that I really despise. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically the Spade character meeting another itself in another alternate universe, you know? First Lego Movie 2 did this, and also last year's Lightyear, and now Across the Spider shit. Yes, it's actually going through that cliche. This is why this is the worst sequel ever made. It literally goes through every cliche in the book.
Ignoring the fact that you also decided to spoil the LEGO Movie 2 and Lightyear for those who didn't see them, as well as forcing me to stretch out the spoiler chapter of this video, once again you don't explain as to why you don't like this trope. Great.
Sensitivity.
And yeah, it literally turns out all the new characters and old characters from the first movie, they all joined together, team up for the next movie, and blah blah, with that cliffhanger at the end, which honestly, I didn't even stay for the post-credit scenes. I left the theater because I couldn't take another minute with this anymore.
There weren't any post-credit sequences in this movie anyway, besides them showing the logo for the next movie, but details.
Normally I would stay for post-credit scenes, but I decided to leave because I didn't give a shit. And yeah, as you could tell in my opening while it was coming out, I was crying like crazy that I cried a pool of tears when coming out of the auditorium. I cried so hard, it's like the world has came to an end on the day I saw it. This was the worst. This was the worst movie of all time.
Yes. I could really tell that you were crying very hard, to the point where it could rival SpongeBob in regards to crying to the point where the room would fill up with water.
This is the 9/11 of movies.
Hey guys, remember Yoshi Player's video on Animat, aka Electric Dragon, when he said this?
What if all of a sudden he said the Emoji Movie was like 9/11? You can't say that kind of stuff. It's pretty insulting, and it's not funny, even if you're trying to make this a joke.
Well, this statement has aged like fine wine. Not because Animat said this, but instead because someone else said this, and with Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse at that.
It is just the unholy god-awfulness of horribleness that you can ever think of, guys, from its horribly told story, horribly told world building, and just awfully written characters, and just it's just in those god-awful character designs. Oh my goodness, I feel bad for the people that animated this movie, everyone involved with the production of this film. I just feel bad for everyone who made this shit.
First off, it is the unholy god-awfulness of horribleness that you could ever think of. Best grammar ever, 10 out of 10. And second, remember at the start of the video when InsideOutfan said that he wanted the animators to go to jail for making animation that he doesn't like? Well, compare that to now, where he says out of nowhere that he feels sorry for those who made the movie. Which is it, InsideOutfan? Do you want the animators to go to jail, or do you feel sorry for them? Because in this case, you cannot have it both ways. Anyways, I'm just gonna end this video right here, because there isn't anything else worth commentating on. He just spends the rest of the video overacting, saying that it's the worst movie of all time. He rips off Harry Thomas Pictures 3 times in the exact same sentence, and shows a clip from Lord of the Rings showing Gollum falling into Mount Doom with the Across the Spiderverse poster over his face before ending the video. What a disaster of a video that was. Anyways, for my final thoughts on these two videos, I'm going to be taking a bit of a different approach than I did in my other videos. Yes, these two videos are absolute messes, with arguments that are both not expanded upon, as well as not having anything of value because InsideOutfan2001 struggled to find things to say about these two movies, so he decided to cherry pick the smallest things to find in them. But for the final thoughts, there are two videos that caught my eye that is the reason as to why I'm making this video in specific. So, remember back during the beginning of his Across the Spiderverse review, where he talked about how the Spiderverse fandom is the most toxic fanbase ever? Well, in these two videos that he put out, he mentions that he dislikes the fanbase of Spider-Verse because they overpraise them as masterpieces, as well as not letting other people not like them. But that really doesn't do anything to prove that a fanbase is bad. It's just people saying that they like a movie and that's it. Like, I get where InsideOutfan is coming from, but he does not demonstrate this very well. And if anything, by fanbase standards, he actually has things very easy for himself, given that all people are saying is that they like the film and that's it. They aren't bothering you directly regarding what you think of the film. Being a reviewer myself who had to deal with these types of people myself, you honestly have it pretty easy compared to many people. Such as Zayd Magenta, who had people get onto him for what he has said about the Star Wars sequel trilogy, Space Jam 2 A New Legacy, and The Little Mermaid 2023, where people set arbitrary rules on if the topic should stop being talked about after a certain date, use the "it's for kids" excuse to defend them from criticism, through accusations of racism, and so much more. Or Mr. Enter when he more recently did a review on the first Cars movie, getting backlash from fans of the film just for saying that he doesn't like it, as well as fans of the new TMNT movie, Mutant Mayhem, where they've got onto people who don't like the movie or just had some issues with it, using the turtles being teens to defend something that people might have issues with, when that's not the issue that they have. The problem that they have about the film is regarding the overuse of pop culture references in the film. And heck, I gotten these types of things from the Unikitty fans when I did my top 10 worst Unikitty episodes list, where I stated at the beginning that I liked the show, but had episodes that I didn't like, and that if anyone likes the episodes put on there, that's fine, and even explained what I did and didn't like about the episodes on the list. And I still got comments from them crying that they liked most of the episodes put on the list, and asked what was wrong with delivery effect, despite me literally saying what's wrong with it in the countdown. And about a year later, another person started putting incoherent ramblings on both parts of the list, before going to the point of going into the comments on my Eek the Cat review to talk about Unikitty, when I didn't mention Unikitty even once in that review. And I also dealt with similar comments months before I put out me and Jem's co-op review on Robot Boy, with certain people making bad defenses of the show, and also saying, "It's not as bad as you or others say it is," as a way to silence me from giving out my own opinions on the show. What you've demonstrated that you've gone through is incredibly tame in comparison, and if you have gotten these types of comments just for saying that you don't like the movies, you are not making that clear to your audience in the slightest. If anything, you're pretty much the one who is starting pointless stuff with these people. But if that's not the case, I understand your frustrations here. And yes, I do admit that there are people who have poorly handled this whole thing. People like Muddy Pups Fanboy, Charlie the Pixar Fan, and Nick Hicks Spider-Verse and Frozen 2 Fan 2001 have gotten onto Inside Out Fan's case just for simply not liking the movie, which really did not help with the issue in the slightest, and it only adds onto the stereotype that rage culture gets put into, that it's all based on not respecting other people's opinions, that is the reason they're getting onto them. Personally speaking, I can care less about if they like the product or not. Their opinion about the film is not what I'm concerned about. It's all about if they made good points or if the review was well structured or not. And that's the problem with Inside Out Fan's two videos. Not only are they not good reviews, but they're both based on the foundation that Inside Out Fan went in with a bias, wanting to hate them based off the fact that there are people that simply like and praise them. And also because of the fact that Trolls World Tour and Ralph Breaks the Internet are not well liked, when you could just simply ignore those people that would make those negative reviews if you really are bothered by them so much. Personally speaking, I don't find the Spider-Verse film is perfect. No movie is. The flashing and glitching visuals could be a pain for the viewers to watch. The first movie barely has any focus on any of the Spider people besides Miles, Peter B. Parker, and Gwen, and the second movie chastises Miles for saving innocent people and tries to keep him from saving his father from being killed, but if others find it perfect, I just let them say it. Not hold it against the movie itself. So my advice for you, Inside Out Fan, is to set your biases aside when talking about a movie. Realize that not everyone is going to have the same opinions as you, and let them enjoy whatever they want. Start using a script so you can organize your videos a lot better, and also find a video downloader so you won't run into this issue where you have to lazily record your computer screen, given that you no longer record yourself on camera in front of a picture from the movie itself. But anyways, that's pretty much all I got for this commentary. This commentary ended up being a lot longer than I expected it to be. Then again, I expected it to be a little long, given that it is a commentary on two videos, but given that I did recently watch Across the Spiderverse, I wanted to commentate on these videos so that my knowledge didn't go to waste. Anyways, this is Sean S., and I'm signing out.